AT&T Stadium in Arlington suddenly felt like the set of a romantic movie when a gust of Texas wind created an unexpected moment between Jimin and Jungkook. Amidst the grandeur of the outdoor stage and the spotlight surrounding them both, Jimin's windblown hair made his appearance look all the more mesmerizing. The moment occurred while Jimin and Jungkook were performing a ballad-toned section. The stadium atmosphere, previously filled with ARMY's cheers, seemed to quiet down as the camera zoomed in on the two of them. Jimin's hair, slightly tousled by the wind, gave off a natural and cinematic vibe. A few strands fell around his face, making his visuals resemble the male lead of a romance drama. Jungkook, standing not far from Jimin, was seen watching his fellow member. His gaze became one of the most widely discussed topics among fans after footage of the moment circulated on social media. In the close-up shot shown on the giant screen, Jimin displayed a soft expression while Jungkook briefly swept back his wind-blown front hair. That simple movement immediately triggered a long wave of screams from the audience. For some ARMYs, the brief interaction felt like an unscripted scene straight out of a movie. There was no clear romantic dialogue heard, but the combination of the wind, stage lighting, Jimin's expression, and Jungkook's gaze created a profoundly dramatic atmosphere. Several fans even described Jungkook's expression as if he were looking at someone who made him fall in love all over again. Naturally, this impression was purely the fans' romantic interpretation of an on-stage moment, rather than an official statement regarding Jungkook's personal feelings. Adding to the excitement was the audience's reaction inside the stadium. As soon as the camera displayed Jimin and Jungkook's faces together on screen, the sound of ARMY cheering instantly swelled, briefly overwhelming the music. Jimin himself remained focused on his performance. The slight smile that emerged right after the moment only fueled fan enthusiasm further, as it was seen as making the moment even sweeter. Jungkook then appeared to return to enjoying the flow of the show. Although it lasted only a few seconds, their interaction successfully became one of the most memorable visual moments of the Texas stage. Many fans subsequently shared clips of the video from various angles. Some even slowed down the footage to observe Jungkook's expression while he watched Jimin, whose hair continued to catch the breeze. The incident also highlighted how a simple occurrence on stage can turn into a major memory for fans. No spectacular antics or lengthy dialogue were required to make a single scene feel truly special. Surrounded by thousands of ARMYs filling the stadium, Jimin and Jungkook managed to create a visually intimate moment. The Texas wind, the spotlight, Jimin's tousled hair, and Jungkook's gaze blended into a single scene that immediately sparked widespread reactions. Ultimately, whether Jungkook truly looked as though he was falling in love with Jimin again, or whether it was simply a romantic interpretation by fans remains a question only Jungkook himself can answer. One thing is certain, however. Those few seconds when the wind played with Jimin's hair managed to send the entire stadium into a frenzy, leaving ARMY feeling as if they were witnessing a romance movie scene unfold live. As the lights once again brightened the stage, Jimin and Jungkook continued their performance as usual. Yet for the fans who witnessed it, that brief moment left behind a single question. If a mere gust of wind could generate that much chemistry, what other surprises might await on the next Texas stage? The excitement at AT&T Stadium did not fade even after the moment passed. As Jimin and Jungkook resumed their performance, parts of the audience could still be heard screaming, seemingly unable to move on from the short scene they had just witnessed. Some ARMYs were even seen hugging each other and laughing while pointing at the big screen. To them, the combination of Jimin's wind-blown hair and Jungkook's reaction was simply too perfect to overlook. Not long after the concert ended, fan cam recordings from the stands began spreading across social media. Videos captured from different vantage points allowed fans to re-examine the expressions of both Jimin and Jungkook from multiple perspectives. Interestingly, the more the video was replayed, the more small details were noticed. Some fans focused on Jimin's hair, others paid close attention to the direction of Jungkook's gaze, while others were mesmerized by the sudden explosion of the audience's reaction. The comment sections quickly transformed into a space where ARMYs shared their respective interpretations. Some described the mood as an accidental romance movie scene taking place mid-concert, while others found the moment hilarious simply because it all started with a stray breeze. fans even joked that the Texas win that night seemed to have its own production crew. Considering the gust arrived precisely when the camera was panning toward Jimin and Jungkook. However, what touched ARMY the most was how natural the moment felt. There were no grand gestures or intentionally flashy interactions. Just a spontaneous event caught on camera at the exact right time. For attendees inside the stadium, the experience felt distinctly vivid. They were not only watching Jimin and Jungkook perform live, but also witnessing a subtle moment that instantly became the main topic of conversation afterward. For fans viewing the footage through social media, curiosity only grew stronger. Many began searching for high-resolution videos to clearly see the facial expressions of both BTS members. One common thread among all the reactions was how quickly the stadium atmosphere shifted. In a matter of seconds, the attention of thousands shifted from the overall performance to a single minor interaction caught on camera. While every fan naturally had their own interpretation, the moment demonstrated how simple details on stage can become unforgettable memories. As the video was played back in slow motion, ARMY's focus landed on one particular second, the moment Jungkook turned his head toward Jimin before refocusing on the performance. That split second may have passed in the blink of an eye on stage, but for ARMY, that was precisely where a new story began. Did Jungkook briefly lose focus while looking at Jimin, or did the camera simply catch the moment at the absolute perfect time? The answer may remain a mystery, but one thing is clear. The Texas win that night successfully made an entire stadium fall in love with a simple, spontaneous moment. As the clips were replayed over and over, fan attention gravitated increasingly toward Jungkook's expression. The moment he turned toward Jimin was brief, but it was enough to send the entire stadium into another roar of cheers. In several recordings from the upper stands, Jungkook appeared to pause his focus on the performance for a fraction of a second to look at Jimin. His gaze lingered momentarily before he turned back toward the audience to resume his part of the song. For ARMY, that split-second pause felt captivating because it occurred just as Jimin's hair was swept by the wind once more. The strands moving across Jimin's face highlighted his visuals, while Jungkook happened to be standing close by. It is no surprise that fans began calling it a cinematic gaze. This was not due to any explicit statement from Jungkook, but rather because the lighting, camera positioning, facial expressions, and movement of Jimin's hair made the moment look meticulously scripted. Some fans even zoomed in on Jungkook's face to trace his subtle facial shifts. Some felt Jungkook showed a faint smile, while others viewed his expression as one of focused attention on the flow of the performance. These differing interpretations only prolonged the discussion. Each time a new video surfaced, ARMY returned to compare camera angles to see if the moment appeared the same from another perspective. Interestingly, Jimin himself remained entirely composed. He did not pause his performance, continuing to follow the melody as if nothing extraordinary had taken place. It was precisely Jimin's calm, natural composure that made the atmosphere feel even sweeter. On one side, Jimin stood with his hair continually teased by the wind. On the other, Jungkook briefly directed his gaze toward him before returning to his role on stage. For attendees at the venue, the event lasted only a few seconds. For fans recording it, those few seconds turned into content to be replayed endlessly. Quite a few ARMYs joked that the camera operator that night seemed to know exactly when to push in for a close-up. The moment Jimin's face filled the giant screen, Jungkook's captured glance sent the atmosphere soaring. Because it was entirely unscripted, the scene felt like a movie coming to life right before the eyes of thousands. There were no special props, no exaggerated acting, and no sign that something extraordinary was about to happen. It all began with a breeze of Texas wind sweeping across the open stage. Jimin's hair moved with the wind while the stage lights framed his face clearly. At nearly the same moment, Jungkook was standing a short distance away. When his gaze briefly drifted toward Jimin, the camera captured both of them in a single frame that instantly shifted the energy of the venue. To ARMY, that frame possessed all the classic elements of a romantic scene. A nighttime stage, soft lighting, a gentle breeze, two main figures standing close together, and a gaze captured at just the right instant. Even without dialogue, their expressions were enough to set fan imaginations spinning. Some describe it like the moment a lead character in a film realizes for the first time that the person standing before them looks truly special. Of course, this remains the fans' creative interpretation of an onstage event. There has been no statement from Jungkook suggesting any romantic intent behind his look toward Jimin. Yet, it is precisely that open space for interpretation that makes the video so endlessly captivating. Every army can watch the exact same clip yet walk away with a different story. Some focus on Jimin's hair blowing in the wind. Others remain fixed on Jungkook's expression, while others simply take in the overall ambience created by the lights and stage layout, framing them like movie leads.